Welcome to another episode of the Cities Skylines podcast, brought to you by Paradox Interactive and SimNation. My name is Paulo, and I am here with Jan. Hi, Jan.
Hello.
And Cities Skylines podcast is where we bring you news on the Cities Skylines, its development, what the devs said, what's going on in the forums every, ideally, 2 weeks on Wednesdays. And this week, well, actually, what do we have this week?
We actually have a dev diary from last week. We also have some community stuff. We have lovely things. A lot of lovely things.
Yeah, and there was also a video on the...
There was a really lovely video we'll be showing in a minute.
Yeah.
But I think we should kind of go into the dev diary. It wasn't a very extensive one this week, or rather last week, so it'll be like...
It did clarify a few things.
It did. It's mostly a lot of it are things we've heard before, or at least they mentioned before, either in previous dev diaries or in the streams, which of course we'll be covering if there's new ones. I'm guessing there's probably going to be a new one at the end of the month. They did the last few each month on the 25th, except for last month because, you know, Christmas and all that jazz. That's why we weren't here last month either.
There's still Christmas decoration behind Jan. And me too.
Yeah, there is a little bit. It's fallen off a bit, but it's still there.
Mine is suiciding, but oh well.
Just slowly. But yeah, we have the dev diary. This week's dev diary, it was entitled Simulation. I would say that for that title, it could have gone a little bit more into detail, but it did explain quite a few things, even though as I said, we've covered a few before. What they kind of started off with is that they pointed out again that the basics of Cities Skylines is the simulated citizens. Every citizen is simulated.
I like
and
that.
That's kind of makes the game work really well. Because every citizen has a name, it has an age, he has a home and a workplace. Unless, well, they're a kid or a student and they go to university. Or they're too old and don't work anymore. But it's that has been clarified. So we've said this before, and they've mentioned it before, that every citizen is simulated in the game. Every citizen is simulated up to, I think they're aiming at 1 million citizens. They said, which is a lot of citizens to simulate.
1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's a lot of citizens to simulate.
It is a lot, especially because they're individual. They're not numbers, right?
Yeah, because each citizen is technically simulated. That's a lot of simulation going on.
I don't know how they're doing it, but nice job.
Which is one of the things they went into this dev diary. Because of the amount of people they want to simulate, they've decided to go individual citizens over realistic numbers. So this is a might. They didn't say this is going to be like this, but this is one of the possibilities. Like the high rises, the skyscrapers, the big apartment buildings are going to have only 12 households. Now, they said they might only have 12 households, which means they could have more. It isn't something, set in stone. But they said up to 12 households, which we did kind of a little bit of our own calculation when this news came out. And that could still mean that each high-rise still has approximately 50 citizens, because a typical household has four citizens, 2 parents, 2 children. So it could be a higher number of citizens in that skyscraper, but only around 12 households.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's fine, because I mean, what they were basically saying is, all right, we got 1 million people we can simulate, but if it is going to be this big, I mean, the maps are going to be this big, then we kind of let you just put a bunch of people in just one building, because if you multiply that by all the extents of all the area you can actually build on, that's going to totally cross that 1 million that they can actually simulate, and then that's, I think, when the game starts to slow down and maybe break even. So, I mean, I think it's fine. I mean, I'd rather get that instead of having to be forced into a small area. Let's not forget that they're simulating every person individually, right? So that's what you have to sort of give up to have those features, and I think it's totally fine. I'd much rather have like huge spaces to build on, and that's where the fun of building a city infrastructure is. So I'm totally fine with that. It's a good thing.
So yeah, basically that's kind of my opinion. And yours, Pablo, as well, is that we would rather give up that huge amounts of citizens for more perfect simulation of the citizens we have. I would definitely rather have fewer citizens, each individually simulated, giving it that more of a level of realism to the city than just numbers, like other games.
Yeah.
So yeah, but part of that, the reason that all these citizens are simulated, besides the effect that it has on education, on workforce, on everything in the city, is that because all these citizens have their own individualism, they all at some point go to shopping centers, leisure centers, parks, works, which means that you have to simulate each individual citizen as he leaves his house and goes to wherever he needs to go. And another thing they said is that not all of these citizens will have a car, which is totally acceptable. Like, I'm a young adult. I don't have a car. I don't drive a car because I have a train system nearby that takes me everywhere.
Transportation is your friend.
Yeah, but they said this specifically. Not all citizens will have a car, which means that some will walk to work, or if you have a public transport system, they will take the public transport system to wherever they need to go. And even those citizens that do have cars will take the public transport if it's more convenient. If it's a shorter commute or if it's more cost efficient, they will take the public transport. Which is really good.
That is. I like how they make a difference between those who can and can't. I'm sure some that do have cars. I know they can still use the public transportation system. They can opt to use it if the conditions are met.
Yep. It's like, oh, look, if I take the bus, my route to work will be 20% quicker. I'll take the bus.
And then there's.
But if you have a bus line and it would take them longer to go wherever they want to go, they will continue using their car. And
I like they also explain a little bit how the goods work. Like, they're produced in industrial areas and taken to commercial areas to be sold to citizens. If what they're saying here actually works, not implying anything, that'll be amazing. Because...
well... They did mention this before in the stream that we covered.
I mean, that goods don't magically appear in commerce is just to, as a fallback solution. I want my city to fail if I fail to make the infrastructure. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they literally said goods are produced in industrial areas and transported to commercial areas to be sold. Which is, trucks will come out of the industry. They will take to commercial areas. If the commercial areas are full up, those trucks will take your industrial surplus out of the city and sell it that way. And the same thing goes for raw materials. If your city is producing enough raw materials for the industry will take from your production. If you don't, then it will import. And if you don't have a train or a cargo ship connection for those raw materials, it will take trucks, and those will have a huge impact on your road network. As we know, trucks are big.
Yeah, and I do like that. There's like a clear punishment for not having that infrastructure ready, or having to rely everything on roads, if you may. So I like that.
Yeah, but I mean, you could, because of how the traffic system seems to work, is you could just have specific routes that would be, you can bypass that heavy congestion.
Yeah, you could just have like outer
that you have with another road, and they will pick the new road over the old one. But it doesn't exactly work like in some other games where they would just go to the new road and congest that and leave the old one free. They said that, it says here that to avoid traffic jams, vehicles choose their routes so that they try to avoid the busiest spots in the city. Which is a really good thing. Like, it's something you would do. It's something you would do in real life. Like, if I take a car and go to work, I know exactly which route is always congested in the morning when I have to go to work, so I will take a different route that isn't so congested. They also said that traffic will choose lanes early to avoid switching. So if you have a 2 or 3 lane road that leads up to a junction, traffic lights, they will, if they want to go left, they'll choose the further left one. Just so that they don't
have to wait to actually switch whenever they decide to turn left or right. Yeah.
They also mentioned that roundabouts, elevated roads, and new roads are a big part to getting people to where they need to be and avoiding congestion, which is good. And another thing they said, which it makes a lot of sense and it kind of follows traffic, is if you build a fire station or a police station and they're trying to get somewhere and the road in front that they need to take to that place is congested, they will not be able to get there as quickly as they could. Like, the cars will hopefully move to some degree, but like if there's a 5-kilometer long traffic jam, it will still take them an hour to get through.
That's my problem as the city designer.
This is something that they said because they didn't really mention that much city happiness before, other than parks. They said that if you build firehouses or fire stations near residential areas, they will raise the happiness of those residential areas. And the more happy the residents are, the less likely they are to turn to crime if they are unemployed for a long time.
Nice.
That's it for the dev diary. We've covered the entire dev diary, just that in about 10 minutes.
Still
5
great.
minutes. But as I said, it was a slightly shorter one this week. They didn't cover as much, but it was concise and it did focus on a few things that at least I personally had a few questions on. Yeah. So yeah, this week's dev diary was written up by Carolina Corpo, which is the lead designer in Colossal Order and lead designer on Cities Skylines. We like her. She did a stream a while ago as well.
Yes.
And yeah. The other kind of piece of news, I guess, that we got this week, it actually came out today as of our recording, which is Tuesday, so yesterday. They released a short video. It's, 2 minutes long or so? Almost 3 minutes long. And they kind of explained what their passion and the reason behind doing City Skylines is. So
we can watch that now if you want.
Yeah, I would kind of, for those of you that didn't catch it before, so we're just going to play it. We're not really going to talk to it.
Yeah, but it's really good. Yeah, it's definitely worth watching. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice video.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Cities Skylines is a love project from Paradox Interactive and Colossal Order, and this is driven by passion as we try to bring the kind of games we loved growing up to a new generation of gamers. So one of the biggest challenges when you create a game as Cities Skylines is try to decide what to keep from the staples of the genre and what you want to change or improve on.
City building games are always based on reality. That is what actually inspires us to make these kind of games, seeing how city actually evolves, how citizens behave. It is really just trying to bring as much realism as possible, but making it more fun than it actually is in real life.
Maybe this sounds kind of weird, but I've been working on the game now for almost 1.5 years, and I still like to play it. I can watch the traffic in the city for hours. I think it's so hypnotic.
One of the things with city builders is that it naturally make you creative because you need to solve the problems you yourself have created earlier in the process. So as your city grow in the directions you decide, you'll find more and more complex challenges that you need to find a solution to. Doesn't mean you need to be a 3D artist or enjoy creating your own landscapes or buildings, but creating your own city is a creative process.
The goal in Cities Skylines is to grow the biggest, most optimal city you actually can. But how we see it is that you really get to decide if you want to do that or not. We just really try to give options to you as a player to choose that maybe you want a smaller farm town and just run that as a mayor, or maybe you want to go for that 1 million citizen metropole. It's pretty much down to what you want to achieve in the game.
At the end of the day, Paradox Interactive and Colossal Order creates this game because we want you guys to play it and enjoy it. Just get a hold of us, tell us what you want and what you need from this game, and we'll try to do everything we can to make it happen. But you can get a hold of us via Facebook, via Twitter, via mail, Reddit, Telegram, smoke signals.
I think this is just a super amazing kind of community project. We currently have 13 people working at the offices, and I love taking your feedback into account. And we do it as much as possible, but of course there are limitations.
We had a blast creating it, and we hope you really have a blast playing it, and we'll release in 2015.
campaign on Cities Skylines is still going. We have managed to unlock the Japanese garden.
Yay! That's awesome.
I checked earlier today.
Oh, great. I could.
So go, if you haven't signed up yet, go sign up because I want the better Japanese garden.
Yes, please. Actually, yeah. Let me quickly check on that. And yeah, that is true. We got the sand garden already. The next step would be the pond with koi fish. I love koi fishes. And I know I have like a face like I want to eat them, but now I just like them. But I just like, oh yes. And then cherry trees. This is the third tier. All right, cool. Yeah, all you have to do is sign up and then tell your friends about this awesome.
Yeah, and remember, if we unlock that, we get all the assets for it in Ploppable, so we can do it other places.
Yes, that is awesome. I think.
So go sign up. Do it now.
I think still everything we say, it's our stuff, not official, statements. But yeah, I think you can plop them anywhere, like any park. It would just make sense. That's what we're guessing.
It would be wonderful.
So yeah,
we did forget to mention that at the beginning of the podcast. It's not an official podcast, but we are working with Paradox to bring you all the news.
Yeah,
so,
on Paradox
make sure
Extra.
that everything is correct.
Yeah,
on Paradox Extra, which is amazing.
So yeah, what is? Okay, so yeah, we pretty much covered everything. But also on the podcast, we like to sort of bring you sort of like a summary of what's being discussed in the Paradox forums in the Cities Skylines section. And there were a couple topics that were interesting that Jan found, and maybe I'll bring one up myself as well. We'll look into that. But how about you start with one of them? Somewhere really good.
I'm gonna let you do the solution for the farms, and I'm gonna start us off with wall-to-wall buildings.
Oh, okay.
Because I know you're not that big of a fan of them, but I am. If you live in European towns and in quite a few New World towns, you will know that old city centers have a lot of wall-to-wall buildings, which just means it's one building stuck to another building, and it's just a row of what looks like a really, really long building. And that's something I love in these cities, and it gives it a certain charm, especially in these older cities, because a lot of these buildings are either Baroque or neoclassical, and it gives it a kind of a charm. And I know our capital has one, and it's lovely, and I've seen it in lots of old European cities. And it's just something that I'm really excited about, and I would really love to see. And it just, I want it. I want to build that perfect old city center. It just,
they did
just
say
something...
that they wouldn't do it at launch, but they'll look into it. There's an actual statement by one of the developers of Colossal Order.
Yeah.
But I personally don't like that, because all buildings are built like that. In my city, it's a bad thing. Like, it's not like, oh, it's like a piece of art. No, it's like a damn house that is right next to mine, and I can listen to them. Because in my city, that is bad. But I guess in your city, it's like a nice thing. So I can see why you would like that. I can understand.
Yeah,
building is very different in different cultures. We have to bear that in mind. Yeah.
Yeah. They did say they want to mention they want to look into this after launch. It won't be available at launch, but even if they look at it afterwards, I would be really excited. It's just something that is close to me because of the way they are built here. Because a lot of these buildings have a lot of history, a lot of culture behind them, and they're not exactly, paper buildings one next to the other where you can hear everything through the walls.
Yes.
But this is something interesting, and the guy who posted this, his name is Keanu Manu. Did mention that he did give a few of kind of suggestions based on it, which I thought were interesting. It's always good to hear suggestions. As they said in the video, they want to hear suggestions, so keep those coming. Well. But they did say that how he envisioned it is that there would be several zone types for these wall-to-wall buildings, so you wouldn't have to build them if you didn't want to. He kind of spread them into low and high density-ish, which is the low density would be 1 to 3 stories, which is typical. You would get 1 to 3 story houses in a wall-to-wall, and then you have the taller ones, which would be between 3 and 12 stories, which those get a bit excessive. Like, that's a bit too tall even for me.
To share walls, yes.
Yeah, but like 12 stories, that's a high building. I mean, quite a high building.
They have to agree on 12 stories.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is an option. There were other things like what would you do in corners? What would you do on curved roads and stuff like that? So there is a lot of stuff to look into it.
Yeah.
But it's a really nice idea. And if you do want to read more on that, there will be a link in the description below. Read the whole topic. It's like a 3-page topic now.
Hey, it is.
But yeah, there were some really good suggestions in there. Like maybe they would be ploppable, so you could glue one to the other. Maybe you would get ploppable corner buildings, stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff.
Maybe like the way counters work on The Sims 4. Sorry that I mentioned it, but basically they have that. They're smaller, but if there's one right next to them, they just extend. But of course, we're talking about that counter, not a building with windows and everything that functions and so on. So. There's a slight difference.
I will say that it is something that they almost had it in Cities in Motion. Like Cities in Motion had connected buildings, which looked pretty nice. Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh
well.
And yeah, it just looked really nice. I liked it.
Okay. Well,
of course, we'll mention again that the devs do look at the forums and read the forums, so I would,
clearly.
I would look at it.
Yeah.
But that was the kind of one. Marzu from Colossal Order did say that European wall-to-wall buildings are one of the first things they will look into after launch, with tunnels.
Nice.
I want
happy?
tunnels.
I love tunnels too. I want tunnels.
Yeah.
I love tunnels, even if I cannot see them, because why would I? But, they're just, I see the hole, but still.
Even if I don't need tunnels, I'll build tunnels.
Just out of like due excitement. Yeah.
Just add 5 tunnels for no reason.
Okay, no, and all right, we have time for one more thread. You want to go with it, or?
No. I think you did read this one, which is the proposed farm solution, which I found an interesting solution.
Yeah.
I think we should cover it because we've been talking about farms a lot, and farms are a hot topic.
Yes.
Cities Skylines.
They are indeed, and yeah, I mean, because in case you didn't see the last episode of the Cities Skylines podcast, last year technically. Yeah, there was a very long thread about people sort of like not liking the fact that the 4x4 farm squares were like the only way you could have farms. And it is true, a farm is usually like very long, and whenever they're made in games, they are, bigger than that. Never at true real scale, because that would be like way too much, but they're bigger than that. They're bigger than just a building, like a house. So, they said that, for launch, that's not going to happen. They kind of really just change everything, how the game works. But there's a very nice solution going on here by HanoDV. That's the name of the original poster on this thread. And his proposal solution is basically to sort of, if I'm right, to define the area where you can just declare it, agricultural enabled, and just have farms just be spawned there around like trees and so on, to create those activities where it's suitable. And I don't know, I guess they sort of like just go back and forth with the city as they can. I don't know how, but because it would be hard to sort of create an infrastructure for buildings that are not created or that they could change, right? So, but basically, like you would define an area and then just they spawn on that area.
Yeah, how he is proposing it is the area for agriculture is defined in the terrain editor in the map builder. Like it is now. I mean, when you go in there, you define an area where agriculture can be done.
Oh, yes.
You kind of have to airbrush it onto the, like, agriculture can be done in this corner of the map.
Interesting.
But how he's proposing it, that happens in the editor. Like you do it like you would now. You say, look, this could be an agricultural area here. But then inside the game, you would have some sort of a tool where you would select the size of farms. Or he said you could have a circle tool to set pivot irrigation, or a polygon tool for large farmland areas. So I'm not quite sure how he thought about it, but that to me sounds a similar system they used in in Cities XL, where you would have a sort of a rectangular tool where you would select, like you would select an area, a farm, and a farm would happen, and they could be any size, almost any size.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It is. I guess it's well, it is an actual or a closer thing to an actual solution, because many were just talking about like zoning bigger areas, but zoning actually works on roads. So we're back to the same issue, and how many tiles can go from road to whatever, so you can zone a bigger farm. You can't really tell that. That's not how it works. But this way, you're basically defining, within the boundaries of the agricultural area, I declare this kind of farm, and this kind of farm. So some people, I can see why they really want farms, and I guess there are gonna be farms, just not like this. So I don't know. Maybe it's nice that people do suggest solutions instead of just saying
it's a different solution than what we've seen before. I mean, a lot of people have said, look at Cities Skylines and how Cities XL does it, which is a good way to do it. Although Cities XL had many flaws, it had some good things but many flaws. But it's a lot of people just said, oh, look at that, look at that, look at that. But this one is a more concrete solution. It's not the best solution. And it might not work in the game, but it is a suggestion, and I like those. I like people suggesting.
Yeah, and
always.
It doesn't it's not like 100% error proof. I mean, I see some issues right there with the implementation, or the usability and all that. But at least I think it's really close to what it could really be. That's what I like. And
the other reason why we brought this one up because Colossal hasn't commented on it yet.
Interesting. Huh.
Don't comment.
I guess they were like, no, not on this release. Like, not another farm thread.
A lot of things have been demanded of them.
Yeah, it's release, amazing, but it's you know what? I think it's because people see them like, I don't want to just put them on a pedestal or something, but people are seeing them like the saviors of the genre. Like everyone's just not getting it right over and over and over since 2004 pretty much. And they're going like, okay, no, I think we know it's wrong. Here's our solution. People loved it. And now everyone's just trying to squeeze in everything that they love about city building and so on in the game as well. So I think the reason why you see so many suggestions is because people just really like what they're doing already, So I think that's great. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, it's different solutions to problems, and it's always good to get some ideas going. Your specific idea might not work, but a derivative of that idea might, and that's why if you have suggestions or you have comments on the game or you have concerns, that's why they have the forums. If you go to forum.paradoxplaza.com, there is a Cities Skylines subforum. You can go, you can put suggestions. Every video, every comment, every picture of your proposed solution helps, especially if you're not the best at wording it, it's always nice to kind of show, because
then people will just keep taking that brainstorming off it anyways, so
yeah, they're always good. That's another thing that I've noticed a lot. It's a lot and more developers are turning to the community for suggestions, because when you have a small team like Colossal, or there's 13 people, when you have a small team, you might not think of everything, and then when you have someone with a completely different background, with a completely different idea set and a view of the world comes up with a solution, you're like, oh yeah, well maybe we can do it like that. We just haven't thought of it. That's why we encourage, and everyone encourages, go comment on the forums. Yeah. Go, if you have ideas, comment on the forums. Go on the subreddit. There's a continuous AMA going on the Cities Skylines subreddit. We will have a roundup up each week. Except this week, last week.
On the website, on SimNation website, that is.
On our SimNation website, that is. I try to get one every week. The 5 most interesting questions and answers I find, because there are a lot of them.
There's so many.
You don't have to read through all of them. I do.
Yeah, you get the better ones.
Yeah.
All right, so that's all for this week's Cities Skylines podcast. As always, we intend to release this every 2 weeks on Wednesdays on the Paradox Extra channel and also on the SimNation channel. Make sure you follow both of us. You can find the links in the description below. And if I am not missing anything now, I think I am not. We're fine. That has been all for this episode. My name is Pablo. That was Jan right there. And we'll see you next time.